Hello, everybody. 5x5's in chat. If you're watching this live, we do record this show. So if you're watching recording, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. But this is Shuttle Sunday. We're doing Shuttle Sundays, not every single Sunday, because obviously we're going to spread this out. And we do have other events that go on, like a museum show and things like that on a Sunday. This is when we have a spare Sunday. We're going to go through the missions in order. It's in our playlist. If you do Shuttle in live chat right now, you will see the playlist for all the Shuttle missions we've done so far. We are doing them in order, which includes some DoD missions, which don't have a lot of footage, but we will cover every single one because I think that's right. And yes, they are in order: 51C, 51D, and 51B. This is where you start to see some of the missions out of sequence, but this is the route. This is the actual chronological approach of covering the shuttle program through the early days, and we will go all the way to STS-135 in the end. Luckily, joining me, we have expert knowledge from Sawyer Rosenstein. Say hello, Rose Sawyer.
Hello, Sawyer. I know that gig's gonna get old every time,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, no, it's great to be back with Shuttle Sundays. We got Discovery, we got Challenger, and we've got toys in space to talk about.
Oh, my word. And you lucky people, guess who else is joining us this Sunday? Jack Bayer. Say hello, Jack.
Hello, Jack. I had to do it. I couldn't not.
Goodness me.
What's
Well,
up?
we've got three missions to cover. So we're going to try this in an hour. We'll probably go over a little bit, but that's fine. We'll make sure we cover them. The fun thing is the first mission is what do I haven't got a lot of content because it's a DoD mission. And you're probably thinking, Chris, but Shuttle, seriously, and L2 and all those photographs and whatever. Yeah, we've got content. Don't worry. We've got a lot of content, but they do not share things like the payload bay and things like that because this was a secret mission. In fact, the payload was never known until actual time passed where some diagrams then get sent out. So we do have one render of the satellite that was launched in this mission, but let's get right into it by showing some of the prep work here, where I do believe I will be able to show the mission, but here we go. There's a crew. There's a crew that were assigned. This is the first Department of Defense mission, right, Sawyer? Used by the
Correct.
Space Shuttle program.
Yep, this is the first partnership with the DoD. Certainly not the last. Believe it was because the payload that they were using really needed to fit tightly inside that payload bay. So they did have an MSE, which was one of the military people that rode along with it on this surprisingly short mission.
Yeah, like 3 days, right?
Yep, that was it.
Crazy. So the first DoD mission. Fun thing about the classified satellite. If you watched our stream of the last Delta Heavy back, I think in like April, they launched a signal intelligence satellite called Orion. That is like the next generation version of the signal intelligence satellite that this mission launched, which was a signals intelligence satellite called
Signet.
no, SIGINT is like a type
Oh,
of it's I think it's called Mentor?
no, this one was Magnum.
Magnum, thank you. Magnum, preceded Mentor, which is also Orion.
Yeah.
Mentor, Orion are what Delta Heavy took over, basically, but, 3 of these signals intelligence satellites were launched on Shuttle. 2 of them on Discovery, 1 of them on Challenger. This is the very first one, like you said, Sawyer. I'm a nut for all the spooky stuff. These are some of my very favorite Shuttle missions, even though we often get very little imagery or information from these, but that's kind of part of the fun, right?
Also, the crew. There's definitely one way. The thing with me and Sawyer is we know with the crews, but there's famous ones that we can talk about. Having never got the measles, right, Sawyer?
Yeah, thankfully, Ken Mattingly actually got to command this mission, all related to Apollo 13, with Ken Mattingly originally flying, and then turns out came out with exposure to German measles. So, yeah, that whole Apollo 13 saga. And then, of course, we also have Elton Onizuka,
Hmm.
MS-1 on this flight, who unfortunately, we know also because of the later flight on Challenger, but he did get to go into space before that.
If you
Absolutely.
if you ever do go to Little Tokyo in LA, there's a really sweet and appropriate memorial to Onizuka right there. It's a nice little spot. Highly
That's
recommend.
that's a nice story. I didn't know that actually, Jack. So next time you're back in California, I don't know if it would be appropriate or not, but It might be nice, especially with the angle of us being respectful. I've never seen it, Jack. So if you do manage to get a photograph of that, maybe that'd be
Oh
nice
yeah,
to see. Yeah.
I've photographed it a bunch. When we do 51L, I think it might be an appropriate
Yes,
time.
that would be right. Yes. We got some pre-launch photographs here. There's very few again because DoD mission it's pretty much where I'm sure at the time the photographers who regularly took pictures of the shuttle missions were told, look, we've got certain restrictions in play here, and that's completely understandable. 39A, I've been following this, so you've noticed I've been talking about this since STS-1. It's still not really looking like the shuttle pad we recognize from the later days or the more modern era. It's still got that Apollo vibe to it, hasn't it? But it's getting there.
It's still in that in-between phase, but this is looking a lot more like the 39A we know and love from the shuttle era.
Yeah. And here is the released
Oh, really,
diagram.
really quick. Sorry. What's the deal with that crane on top of the fixed service structure?
Oh God, I'm gonna go back now. One second.
I've somehow never noticed that before. Oh, I ruined it. I blew it, Chris. I'm sorry.
No,
There.
there we
What
go.
is what is
Yeah.
going on with that crazy? Looks like it's a swiveling crane, maybe.
Well, that's where the gaseous vent hood would go, wouldn't it? We've seen the beanie cap in the modern era of 39A during shuttle. That's a bit of a contradiction in terms of modern era, but shuttle. We go back in time. You can see it there. There's the beanie cap thing there. I'm trying to think. This all came down now. We have 39A in the right hand side live in its Falcon 9 Falcon Heavy configuration. But it's still got the things like the lightning tower that still exists on top
Right.
of the tower there. You've got the water tower as well that still exists from the era. The crane itself, Sawyer, remind me, do you have any ideas what that is? Because that's where the vent hood is there, separate to the crane. So it's not like it was to further replaced by it later on.
That is honestly a really good question. I'm not entirely sure. My first thought originally was also the beanie cap, but that doesn't. It looks like it's too high for it to be the beanie cap.
I just
Yeah.
feel like I've never noticed that before, and I feel like I would have noticed it. Anyways, it's a crane. Moving on.
Well, this show is going to be 4 hours long based on Jack's observations.
I'll stop.
as we
I'll
go-
stop.
But no, you know what? I've got an actual thing I can say. I do know a former 39A pad leader who now is still at KSC, but he's called. I can say this without saying too much because he actually says this in L2. He says who he is. He's a former pad leader during the space shuttle program, and he's now a greybeard. And what a greybeard means in NASA and KSC terms is they only work like a few days a week, but they're advisory and it's a wonderful thing to know that they've got the people, all these young engineers and whatever working at 39A and 39B on the pad systems have this greybeards they can go to ask for questions, which probably related to things that happened before they were there. And that's what this guy does. So I will ask him, I will use that photograph and ask him, what's going on with the crane? Jack
Yay.
and everyone wants to know. There
Thank
we go.
you.
Cool. Right, the satellite. Here we go. What a wacky thing this looked like. And there's you, Magnum Orion. Look, there we go. Look, Magnum Orion, CIA, NSA. Wow.
Right. So signals intelligence. It's like, what's signals intelligence? Well, we think of spy satellites probably very often as like a optical thing. Where we're using cameras to take pictures of the ground. Signals intelligence is a very big part of space-based surveillance as well, because radio waves don't just stop when they get to their destination. You can park something with a big enough dish, as you can see here, in the right spot and scoop up a whole bunch of different useful data, I guess, is how I'll put that. But yeah, that's if you remember our Delta 4 Heavy stream, that last one we did, we talked a little bit more about the size of these dishes and the size of these satellites and why they necessitate heavy lift, and sort of what they do. It's signals intelligence is fascinating to me.
By the way, if anyone's panicking about us releasing CIA and NSA documentation without authorization, these were all released. They go past a certain period of time. I think there was an event where there was a lot of stuff that went out in the Washington Post or whatever, and then the authorities decided, well, let's just release this stuff anyway. And that's when this stuff got uploaded, because I know there's quite a few satellites, including ones that have flown on ULA rockets like the Delta 4s and what have you, which have now been released since. And I think maybe these satellites are now defunct. They're not used anymore. So that's why they can release that stuff. But it's fascinating after the event to see what was inside a payload bay, because this is the configuration you can see on the left-hand side. You got the IUS, so it's boosted into its orbit after it was deployed out the cargo bay, or the payload bay, I should call it, from the space shuttle. And then you've got the sun shield, you got antenna, you got solar arrays, and then it unfolded. Just unfolded like that. I thought that when I first saw this, I thought, wow, I had no idea it would look like that, which is really cool.
Two things. One, if all of a sudden our stream gets cut off, then it turns out it wasn't declassified.
No, it was declassified, trust me.
Did some quick digging in L2. I believe that crane is what was used to maneuver the payload canister for mating ahead of launch originally.
Oh, neat.
Oh, really? I'm going back to it. We're gonna spend an hour on just
We're
this.
going away from the satellite and going
Yep.
back to the crane. I
No.
regret my decisions.
No, the fun thing is, you mentioned cranes in Starbase Live, people go crazy. So let's talk about cranes. It's even got its own command, the cranes. So I mean, it's like literally everyone loves the cranes. So what was it? So they used it to, because that's not how it did it in the future, was it? Because the payload
Right.
would roll out on the canister and then get lifted in via a crane inside the RSS, the rotating service structure. So I wonder if that was a step before they modified the RSS.
That's what I'm thinking, just based off of a quick read from L2.
Oh, I'm still gonna ask my friend.
Yeah, definitely
Because,
do.
yeah, because that is interesting, and I want to know when it came off. We will see it as we go through Shuttle Sundays. We'll go through a pad shot on a future Shuttle Sunday and go, the crane's gone. It's vanished. My word, this is when it happened. But I'll get some details. He knows everything about pads. That's why he's a pad leader, and that's why he's a greybeard. So I am looking forward to sending him a DM, or PM as we call it in the forum, personal message.
I'm looking forward to being a graybeard. I mean, I've already got kind of a gray beard, so let's go.
You know what the
Also-
irony is, Jack? I've seen photographs of him. He actually has a grey beard.
It's a look.
It's amazing. No, the grey beard is nothing to do with having the grey beard. It's like I'm an old and knowledgeable person.
Right.
But he has a grey beard.
It's only fitting. Can we get a poll in chat? SpySat or Crane?
Oh, hang on.
Oh my gosh.
Hang on.
In the
This is
meantime,
gonna-
we do have 5 gifted memberships from RC Horseman. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate you coming out and always supporting us. And Booster 1058, likewise. We appreciate you, of course, because you always support us as well. But the message says, since we have Jack, here's for the Kilt Fund.
Oh, here we go. It started early. There we go. Preference of coverage, cranes or SpySats.
Yeah,
I have
SpySats.
a funny feeling.
No.
Cranes will win.
No, so how could SpySats not win? It doesn't make any
Because
sense.
You don't.
You know what?
The audience love cranes. I've noticed this. By the way, if you're watching this on replay and you're wondering why we're babbling on, this is a live show. If you want to watch this live, you can actually ask questions as well. Do it on a space flight, and we'll answer questions. It's like a Raptor side, and we're recording the Raptor sides now and putting them on on the YouTube membership area. But this will go on the actual public area. So if you are watching this and you're thinking, what are they talking about questions? Who was asking them questions and where was it coming from? We do this show live on Space Coast Live. On our live 24/7 stream at KSC. Made sense to do it there because that's where they launch from, the shuttles. So you can ask questions live as well. So keep your Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern time clear for when we do a Shuttle Sunday. That's what I'd say. Launch photographs, because we're going to be... I said this mission will probably last for 10 minutes. And about an hour in, we'll get to the next mission. Here we go. Right.
And this is the one with the least assets, right?
It is. It is. That's the irony. All right, here we go. So this is a great launch photograph. Birds. Again, this is 1985. Jack, here we are. I'll bring you back in. Photography. How do these photos look so cool in 85? I mean, what's going on?
I mean, it's not like we didn't have good cameras back then. Of course, this is almost certainly shot on film. It's just a beautiful image. You know, you get the right conditions, you get a skilled operator, you get someone with a good eye. It's just look at the way the light wraps around on that right SRB. That it's just a perfect little, like, I don't know. It's just the lighting in this shot is gorgeous.
And I think film adds to it, if we're being honest. The film quality.
I'm not going to derail us here, but I love film. Don't get me wrong. I am not a film snob. I'm not like, oh, it's better on film. But film good. Like everything good.
Agreed.
Oh, look, a boat.
Yes,
No, it's a ship.
ULA
A
have
rocket ship.
decided ULA have decided to interrupt our Shuttle Sunday by show. In fact, well, that's the good thing about how we do the show. We keep the live view on the right hand side. So if something is happening at Space Coast while we're doing a Shuttle Sunday, you're not going to miss it anyway. So that's a good thing. Cool. Right, another launch photograph here. It's going to be a bit wacky on the live. I'm looking. There we go. That's better. A lovely view of Discovery. And there's the crane Jack likes. And there's the beanie cap. That's what we're talking about, beanie cap. That's the top part of the pad later on. I'm looking forward to going through future missions and finding when they modified the fixed service structure again for 39A, because something's going on there. But that's a beautiful photograph. And I've got one more photograph for the launch, which is this one, which is another epic one. And of course, again, keeping it to modern today, we've got the Starship launches where they have cameras at the top of the tower. We see them. We can zoom in on Space Coast Live at the top of the cameras, and they get these kind of shots. But for Starship, and obviously the movie version of it as well, where you see the rocket rising up. That's a beautiful shot. I've always liked those shots. All right,
I wonder
let's
if
see
that's
what.
also related to the IMAX, because the IMAX cameras were still there for these, for The Dream is Alive.
It's
Yep.
funny you should say that, Sawyer, because I'm
Uh-oh.
going to go on to mission photographs, which are very few and far between. But I'm wondering if I've got any camera shots. Here we go. Well, first of all, there's a crew on orbit. Let's go through this. There's a nice one. Air Force experience. You can see they're all DoD mission kind of things here. Look, we've got what's that? Aim High Air Force.
Yeah, it's an F-15 on there. A great
Is
way
that
of life.
Ah, nice.
That's a sick sticker.
Isn't it? Yay. There. Oh, sleepy. I do like these shots. Yeah. They're done on purpose. They're definitely doing it on purpose there. It's not like this surprise. Having food and doing some workouts. Again, just like the ISS, even though they were shorter missions, they did have to work out in space because it's microgravity and you lose muscle mass while you're in microgravity. I keep saying 0G, but it's not 0G. It's microgravity. I always get pulled up on that one, so I'm going to stick with it. That one doesn't have the IMAX. I definitely took some photographs of the IMAX.
Also, props, by the way, to Elle Onizuka for being able to, in weightlessness, eat with the chopsticks and everything too.
Skills.
Yeah. There's Florida. That's where they launch from. And we can zoom in on the Space Coast, which is here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I want to go to space so bad.
Well, you never know. It's getting more accessible by the day, isn't it? Now, I'm
Thank
going to play a
goodness.
video. Now, this video, unlike the other two videos we got for the other two missions during this Shuttle Sunday, isn't one with the crew talking over it because DoD mission in play, but it's a replay of the launch and landing, so it's cool to watch. I will skip parts of it because parts of it it's not very well edited, but it's a good video to show in its pure form, so I'll skip through it a little bit, but we'll get to the launch starting now. Let me know if you get audio, by the way, boys and girls.
The body flap and speed brake are in launch position. T-minus
There we go.
10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of Discovery, the first flight totally dedicated to Department of Defense mission. And it's cleared the tower.
Tower clear. The vehicle now turning around to the proper azimuth to go down track on this flight. Trim height 0.6 of a mile. All APUs running at normal speed. Main engines all running at normal pressures. Height 2.9 nautical miles, distance 1 mile downrange. Height 6 miles. 5. Throttling up after passing through the maximum dynamic pressure area. Height 12.5 miles. Downrange 12 miles. Altitude now 21 miles. Distance 23. Velocity 5,400 feet per second. Guidance officer reports nav is perfect. Discovery on glide slope, converging on centerline. Crew acknowledges a report of the surface winds. On final now on the glide slope. 6,000 feet altitude. Approaching the end of the runway. Airspeed 285, expected touchdown 195 knots, about 1,550 feet from the runway threshold. Gear coming down now. Gear down, reported locked. Discovery coming down now. Touchdown. Nose gear touched. Standing by for braking. Orbiter systems look good. RMU officer reports even braking on all brakes.
Very cool. And I do like that video because it's one of the rare ones that actually had a wide camera for a long time showing descent rate, which is, what is it, 7 times greater than a commercial airliner? Sawyer, was it 7 or 8? I can't remember now.
It is 7 times steeper and 3 times faster.
There we go. 7 times. I was right first time. I should have just said 7 times and sound like an expert. There's other highlights, potential lowlights of this mission that maybe, Sawyer, you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, I can mention one interesting highlight first. When it came to the launch, they were extremely secretive around it. About 16 hours before launch, NASA's like, "Hey, we're going to be doing this flight tomorrow."
Sorry,
And
hang
then,
on. Oh my god, this photo. Okay, continue.
oh, that's a great shot. And then they just basically kept the countdown clock at the Cape at T-minus 9 minutes and holding, and just left it there. And then all of a sudden, boom, it started counting down to launch. They were that secretive about the exact launch time even, that they didn't tell the public what the T0 was until 9 minutes before.
Wow.
I'd be really interested to know like what members of the press, like what their reaction to that was. You know, because it's a dramatic change from every previous shuttle mission at that point. Since this is the first DoD mission, you know, what what was it like being at the press site and being like, when do I point my camera? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the inside baseball of it. Chris, can you zoom out on that photo again? It's
Yeah.
just so beautiful. I'm so curious if this was a remote
Oh.
camera or if someone was standing there.
I know they had remotes at the end of the shuttle landing facility. That was a question, by the way. We'll take some
Right.
questions before I move on to the next mission, but I did see one in chat immediately saying, where did it land? The shuttle landing facility at KSC, not far from the VAB. And then they rolled them back, wheels on, back to the OPFs, the orbital processing facilities. But yeah, that was, I've definitely seen others as well, where they have this camera at the end of the runway where it just comes overhead, and that is a remote
Yep.
camera.
It's got to be
And
to
we'll
get
bring
heat
up
shield shots before landing in case FOD from the runway damages the heat. Like you want to know what the state of the heat shield was from space and also from landing, and you want to be able to differentiate that. So it would make sense as a camera that they would devote resources to doing. It's just such a beautiful shot. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah,
Sawyer.
coming up in a minute, we're in another mission. We're going to talk about why they didn't use the shuttle landing facility for a while. But anyway, the other thing that you were talking about, one thing I'm sure the reporters would say is it was cold, because it was at the time, coldest recorded temperature during a shuttle launch at 54 degrees Fahrenheit or 12 degrees Celsius. And those of you who are thinking this sounds familiar, like
Mm-hmm.
a certain Challenger mission, you're not wrong. They did notice what's called blow-by, where before the O-rings can actually seal, gases get around it, and they can tell because of soot in between it. We'd seen this before when they had singular O-rings, they added additional secondary O-rings, and in this one, they actually saw a blow-by in both O-rings. They had the ones in the right and left SRBs that showed charring. One of them was just one of the regular field joints, another was the center field joint, which was the first time that they had seen that.
Yep, and that becomes a theme. And I did say before the show, I said, look, that is one of the things that Bill Nelson, Senator Administrator Bill Nelson, brought up at the Boeing presser yesterday. We're right up to date now. We're talking about yesterday, where he said we lost Challenger and Columbia. And he cited the culture. He cited people not listening. And wow, that resonated with me. I actually clipped that and put it out there. And thankfully, that was the most engaged ex-post I did yesterday. And I thought that was good because that showed people understood that the risks now that NASA takes will always be there. But boy, they're not going to make the same mistakes as Challenger and Columbia. I mean, we're talking especially Challenger. I mean, that was far, far worse.
Right. And I almost wanted to, like, they were very, I almost want to say understated in their mention of Challenger and Columbia in the presser, but the fact that they were saying it at all is like, they didn't take a moment and say, listen, this is a big deal that we're even saying this. But if like for them to even say those words,
Yeah.
for them to even bring it up, really underlines the gravity of the situation. And I was appreciative that messaging was there. I hope people understood what a big deal it was for those words to be said by NASA people in a NASA building and a NASA presser. Like, oh man.
Publicly.
But yeah.
If I had a camera facing me during that, firstly, thank goodness it wasn't. Secondly, I pulled the cat expression with the open mouth. I thought he's actually bringing up Columbia and Challenger in the opening remarks related to this decision. I thought,
Yep.
whoa.
Yep. Really, really set the stage.
It did. Really did.
On a lighter note, the poll is 49% to 51, and I'm mad about it, but I'm not mad because SpySats won. So maybe since you were zooming in on the worm, Chris, we get another poll, worm versus meatball, because I do want to thank Booster 1058 for gifting another Red Team membership, and Nigel for the 10-pound super, saying, I wish every shuttle was Shuttle Sunday. Keep up the fantastic work, guys. Thank you so much, Nigel. That really means a lot. I also wish every Sunday was Shuttle Sunday. I wish we did like multiple hour-long episodes on each mission. Maybe we'll do like an extended director's cut someday. But yeah, this is fun. Thank you all for joining in, and of course, everyone is now going to vote Wormball in the poll because how could you not?
I do like that because I actually do. As a Worm fan, I would accept Wormball.
No, Chris, it's cursed.
I would.
No,
No, it's not
absolutely.
cursed.
No way.
It's the future, and I want to see it on Artemis 3. I want to see the astronauts on Artemis 3 on the moon plant a big flag, not an American flag. Oh, that sounds wrong, doesn't it? Not an American flag, Chris. Really? Big meatball flag, just to really make the point. Anyway, moving quickly on. Yeah, have we got any more questions, Jack, before I move on to the next mission?
Yeah, we have a couple. As we were watching the launch footage, some came in. First off, GeoHound was asking on the video, they were all saying normal. When did it change to nominal? I don't think it's there was like a distinct changeover, right? It's just a difference in what some people and some companies and some cultures say, right?
I mean, we've had past missions on Shuttle Sundays where they say nominal, so it's kind of just interchangeable, I guess, by the person doing the commentary.
Yeah, makes sense. I know the answer to this one, but this is a good one for both of you smarty shuttles peoples. Gwen Ever is asking, did the orbiters have different payload capacities that affected payload allocation?
Yes.
They did. Which was the lightest one? Was that Discovery?
Oh, I don't know. Columbia was the heaviest.
Right.
Yeah. So Columbia couldn't do a lot of the missions that the other orbiters could do because of that.
Right. So it's if it's a mission that's like
and-
this, where where the payload is extra heavy, and the orbiters, the heavy orbiter, you need to pair up the extra heavy payload with the extra light orbiter.
It's got to be Endeavour, surely, Sawyer. It's got to be Endeavour.
Oh, it absolutely, by the end of the program, was Endeavour. But for this particular flight, when you only had 3 orbiters with Atlantis getting ready to come on board in a little bit, you picked the newest one, which is the lightest one.
Yeah.
There
Makes
we
sense.
go.
Good question.
Right, boys and girls. Shall we move on to STS-51-D? But Chris, what about 51-B? No, it comes after D. That's how it works. I'm sorry, that's how it is.
Yeah, and so this is what, the 16th shuttle flight sequentially, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yes.
if you'd rather in your head just be like shuttle flight 16, go for it.
Although
but yeah,
this
51D.
means that it was originally discussed during the fiscal year 85, hence the 5, 1 from the East Coast,
Right.
and D, meaning that it was the 4th sequentially that was put onto the manifest.
Right, because it makes perfect sense to do it that way. Anyways, Chris, what are we looking at?
Well, the fun thing about this is I'm bringing this one up first. This is a patch which was dedicated towards Senator Jake Garn, who flew on this mission, and that was basically the way I'm being very careful here, but you can imagine that flying a senator on a space shuttle would go down very well in the halls of power. And NASA is funded as a government level that you want to have politicians on your side. I've always noticed, I don't take much interest. I'm not big in politics. I really haven't, never been in big in politics. But I've watched like the Senate meetings where we've had Kay Hutchinson and Bill Nelson, in fact, on the same panel from different parties. And I always liked how they all seemed to have like real bipartisan agreements on things related to NASA. And that kind of made me think, politics isn't all that bad. And it really was. It's something where NASA's always had that kind of support. I think it's probably bad politically to go against NASA. Maybe it is, I don't know. But that's something where I'm sure there's been quite a few examples, as we'll see during future missions, where politics crosses over with the space shuttle program. And I think, would this be the first example of it, Sawyer?
This was the first, yes, exactly. First senator to fly. The second one to fly a year later is a certain administrator, senator, astronaut, whatever, Bill Nelson.
Yeah. Hey, come on. I mean, you know what? We all miss the former administrator. Jim Bridenstine was amazing. Absolutely amazing. A breath of fresh air. And we all knew who Bill Nelson was. And we're all like, it's going to be a bit stuffy and a bit slow and a bit... I've actually been quite impressed with him. I honestly have. I think he's done...
I agree.
What I expected of him. He knows politics really well, as you'd imagine, being a former senator.
Right.
But he has done the right thing. I don't think he's not really put a wrong step, has he? I don't think he has.
I don't think he has. And you took the words right out of my mouth, Chris. I was thinking the same thing, especially during yesterday's presser. It's like I joke around, and Senator, Administrator, NASA astronaut, ballast Bill Nelson. It's I joke around a lot, but that was I feel like he's doing a good job, and that was especially underscored yesterday.
Sorry, what do you think? Do you think he's doing a good job?
I mean, I would say the best way to put it is he's perfectly living up to the expectations.
No, yeah,
Whereas
that's
Jim
fair.
Bridenstine, we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But when you've got someone who came from Congress originally and has been so pro NASA, being literally flown on a space shuttle, I think you're getting exactly what you asked for, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. 51-D. There's the
Colonial
actual
flag.
mission logo. Yeah, there's. Oh, explain to an Englishman. What should I ask? What a colonial flag is?
The first flag of the United States, when there were just the 13 colonies, had, instead of all the stars in different rows, had them in a giant circle of 13 stars, which you see there. Apparently, according to the official NASA press kit, that is used to symbolize a continuity of technical achievement and progress since colonial times. But yeah, obviously you've got the crew members there, the flag in orbit signifying U.S. presence in space, and preeminence in, quote, manned space flight, close quote.
It's
They
a
said
it's
it
a
Yeah.
really.
really it's a really cool patch. I can't help but feel like it would have gone harder if it had the normal flag, but it's a sick patch.
That's something that we've been saying all the way through these Shuttle Sundays. The patches are amazing.
Yeah, we didn't
And
even get to talk about 51C's patch, but that's fine.
I didn't really have it. All it was that kind of like military one.
Well,
That was
no, there was the official one, which had it was an eagle representing the DoD. You had the shuttle on it, which literally had no name on it because of the secrecy of all of
Oh
it.
wow!
no.
There were 5 stars on it. The 5 stars representing the 5 crew members.
Hang on, I've got it. I'm gonna throw it in chat
Yeah.
in the thing.
But yeah,
See,
so
I go through the L2 pictures and what have you, and you can Google a few things about the patches and what have you. So yeah, there it is. Right. That's the one I shared. I did share that.
That's
Yeah,
a sick
definitely.
patch.
I definitely did share that. Anyway,
yeah,
moving quickly on. Have
you
you
know me. I
noticed?
like to go over the designs of all of them. That's
Have
one of
you
my
have
little
you
fun things.
have you noticed something here? We are still before Challenger. They're still in their blue flight suits that provide no protection whatsoever. They look amazing, but I always look at these blue flight suits and I kind of like shiver a little bit because I know that was the last time they flew like this was 51L, and we're getting closer and closer to 51L. And they were literally just flight suits. Can we call them flight suits?
Yeah. What else would you
Yeah,
call them? That's basically what they are.
but not much use, are there?
I mean,
I mean,
I was just to take it back to Starliner, the presser yesterday. Once again, when they were talking about needing a suited return, I get it. It makes sense. Are there really that many failure modes where the suit will save you if
No.
there's an issue on reentry? It's
What?
more of like a. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I'm not that smart. So maybe there's a bunch of contingencies where you do actually end up wanting a suit on. But
I
I'd
mean,
rather
it
be
also
comfortable. I don't know.
they were also fire retardant in a way, so
That's
that was
fair.
meant
Yeah.
to help.
Yeah, but I like the big pumpkin suits because if they had to bail out, and yeah, okay, there was very limited possibilities where they could bail out. At
Right.
least it'd be okay in the ocean. So until the SRB recovery boats could pick them up, and that was a plan for RTLS, by the way. Everyone thinks RTLS abort would be okay. Bring the shuttle back to the landing runway. Fine, we'll take them off at the shuttle landing facility. No, it was mainly about desperately trying to get the orbiter back over to the point where they were close enough, at least, to the SRB recovery ships to be picked out of the ocean. And that's where these blue suits be no use whatsoever in the cold Atlantic, but the pumpkin suits would give them a chance. So
Yeah.
there's
Fair
that.
enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Sawyer, you're going to love this. Sawyer Flex time, because you've done this.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I have. And
Sawyer Flex.
I can also flex that she is a really awesome person too. I'm Facebook friends with her.
Oh, double Sawyer flex.
Flex.
Of course.
Wow. It's a double. Hang on. Let's go back. Double Sawyer flex. Not only has Sawyer done the zero G, is it called a vomit comet?
It's one of its nicknames, yes.
But you
yeah.
also know the person in this photo. Oh my god.
That is Dr. Rhea Seddon. Really awesome person too. And you know who her husband is?
No, you're going to tell me.
Hoot Gibson.
Wow. That's amazing.
I think you just blew Chris's mind.
No, I'm also asking Jay in the back room why we keep getting that strange artifact on the stream when I'm showing photographs. That's weird. Moving quickly on there. There's a payload. Hang on, there's a payload. Two satellites there involved, and we've got. That's the picture I was looking for. That's the actual plane. Sorry, is that still the plane they use? Or have they modernized it since?
I know currently NASA uses the KC-135 for their training at least. So it's possible. I mean, the one I went on was the commercial venture from Zero G Corp, but
Cool. Launch photographs time. Here we go again. Some spectacular launch photographs yet again. No surprise at all. I think it's hard to find a bad shuttle launch photograph. There's a flag shot. We always like the flag shots.
Classic.
I think photographers to this day still go for the flag shot.
of course.
Yeah, for Artemis 1, when it was going to be in the daytime, I went to Home Depot and bought like a 12-foot ladder. I think that's one of our first interactions, Sawyer, as I was like setting up the ladder. And I was like, hey, I'm not in your way,
Yes.
am I?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good times. That was for the flag shot.
Hang on a minute. Where's the crane gone? Is it still
See?
there? It's just the angle? Is it just
Oh,
the
yeah,
angle
maybe it's just rotated, and that's why I never noticed it.
I went looking for it. But what a photograph again. That's a remote, but it's just beautiful. And that's the water tower there. That is still used this day.
It'd be really, really cool if SpaceX lets us set at this particular location ever again, which it was rare when they did in the first place, and now it's just like good luck, especially with the Starship pad construction. But maybe some of their own internal photographers someday can get a like direct match shot of something like this with a Falcon 9.
Because we used to be able to set up remote cameras inside the fence at 39A, even during SpaceX times.
Yep, it was a thing, and no longer, unfortunately.
Ooh. Now, I've asked this before because I've seen this photograph angle before, Sawyer. Remind me where you think this location may be.
Let's see, this particular location.
Is this on the way to the palm tree spot?
It's the only thing I can think of right now. I'm trying to figure out with the water, especially.
So like there's a common remote spot for 39A that's got palm trees. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll always be like, oh, it's the palm tree spot. And the road that you take to get there, I forget what it's called, but it's like the one that goes all the way up the coast. But to get there from 39A, you sort of have to go around this like big lagoon that there's varying amounts of water in, but it can really make for some awesome imagery. I don't know if this is that, but that would be my guess.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking some of Max's friends may live here as well. The swamp puppies. Swamp puppies! So I could put a deck chair up there, just start throwing meat into there. The swamp puppies will come, oh, food! And I come and pat them on the head. Hello, swamp puppies! And then lose my hand. Right, anyway. Look at this. Here we go. Right, so this is obviously from an aerial photograph, but first of all, they're riding. Astronauts are riding on that plume of fire. Now, it's something that happens to this day. They're riding a plume of fire. And it's absolutely stunning. But I love the fact that you can see KSC below. So you got to crawl away to 39A here. Again, this is all changed since now. We've got a Starship tower here. We've modified the 39A fixed service structure, removed the RSS, the rotating service structure, and I've got a HIF there now as well for their Falcons. And there's the
really cool thing about
Yep.
shots like this, especially if you watch our KSC flyovers, is because it's you're familiar with it and you can see what's changed and whatnot, and it's just so cool. Keep going, Chris. It's fun to point that stuff out.
Well, I like this, right? This is what I like, is you've got the junction there to 39B. So your crawl away goes from the VAB, and in fact, that actually goes all the way behind as well for hurricane relief. So if there's a vehicle waiting to come out there and they're thinking there's a hurricane coming, we've got a vehicle at the pad, they can come round the back and
Yeah,
go
and
in
that
back
curve
way.
is where they're currently building the next mobile launcher,
Yeah,
ML2.
that's right. Yeah, over here. Oh, somebody thinks I loved it. I am weird to the point that I will go on Google Maps and look at stuff that I know is there, but I want to see different angles of it. We had the park there. That was originally for the mobile service device or structure that would be used during the Apollo days, and they'd park it there. They'd take out the vehicle and then roll up as well. But you got the turn away here for 39B. But over here on satellite photographs, you'll see it.
Oh, your favorite point.
I love it. Yeah, I can't actually see it. Oh, it's here. There we are. It's there. There's actually a little road to nowhere here. There's a little junction. You go on Google Maps and you'll see a little junction. You're thinking, where's that going? It's like a road to nowhere and it stops dead. That was going to be for 39C. Back during von Braun's plans in the early days, they wanted up to 39E. And that was amazing because it actually built the junction for it. And it's still there to this day. Go on Google Maps, boys and girls. It's a fun way to spend your Sunday evening. Go on Google Maps, look at that little junction thing, and go, oh my God, he's right. Because it really is. We're actually going to build more than 39A and 39B. And there was like road signs and traffic lights for up to 39E. It's amazing what they could have done if they'd perceived it, if they'd gone through with the Mars plans after Apollo. But of course, we all know the story about the lack of interest in the political landscape and how it all just dismissed away. And we ended up with
By the way,
Shuttle.
thanks to Shuttle Sunday, last time I was driving by there while doing remotes, I had someone with me in the car, and I had to point out to them the whole story. So thank you.
Sawyer, can you actually? You know when you go out you do go down that crawl away road to the side of it, don't you? I mean, you can do that on the tours and stuff, even in the coaches.
This one is part of the remote camera setup for 39A.
Right.
You round. There was that loop that you pointed where they were doing,
Hang on.
the holding point.
Nope.
Where they were dismantling one of the mobile launchers. You drive around that. So you drive around
All
that
right.
little
Yeah.
curve. Nope, the other one up there. Yeah, that one. So you drive around that curve. You go up. There's a new road because you have to go around the HIF that goes all the way along the beach. And then you go down that beach road and swing back around right by 39B, taking the road exactly next to that crawlerway where the crawlerway to nowhere is.
No, you actually get. Oh.
Yeah, so
I
then
need
you
to.
go all the way along the coastline. Then you see 39B. You turn there onto that long road that kind of runs parallel-ish to the beach road. And there's that cutout to nowhere.
I was asking if you could actually get close to it. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, drive right next to it.
No, I need to do that. Right. Anyway, moving quickly on.
Sorry.
I had my little fanboy moment about a road to nowhere. Yes, I've got a fun life.
That's
There we
like
go. Look at this.
the equivalent at Vandenberg, because I have to bring up Vandenberg, is the road that goes from the landing strip over to the processing building. Every time you drive to Slick 2, you drive over this little vestigial taxiway that was supposed to be used for shuttle, and it's like, oh, the road to nowhere. Anyways, continue. This is an amazing shot.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. You can see the business end there of Discovery. By the way, this is Discovery again, by the way. So 2 Discovery missions in a row.
Yeah.
Now, a fun thing, not the same. This is back in the 80s, remember? So it's not the same engines, but the RS-25s, they're now living on with SLS, but also the OMS, the OME, which is the Orbital Maneuvering Engine, or the OMS pods, Orbital Maneuvering System pods. They've taken the engines out of the latest shuttles that retired, and that is now the service module engine for Orion. So they really are finding a lot of shuttle history still going forward. Eventually, they will run out of those engines and they'll move on to the newer models, but that's to start with. But yeah, that's a good shot there to show the difference between the SSMEs, the RS-25Ds, and the Orbital Moving System engines. So that's really cool shot. I like that a lot.
Also, this one had a very interesting launch delay to finally getting there. First off, it was originally it took the payload from 51E, which was totally canceled, put it on this one. Then they started processing it, and they dropped the facility access platform onto one of the payload bay doors and damaged it. So they had to fix that.
Very good. I'm going to play a video again now. I will be skipping through. This is a 20-minute video. We were already about 10 minutes to go in a normal show length, so we're going to go way over. But I will clip the main parts of this. This is actually commentated by the crew, so that's always value. I always find these videos where the crew are talking a lot more valuable than me talking over, say, a launch video. So I'm going to play this video. I will be skipping through parts of it, which are just not really necessary to watch the entire thing, and then go from there. So time for me to mute my microphone, and here we go.
This was our patch. It was the fourth try at a patch since our mission had been changed so many times. Of course, this is always a very exciting time. It's the night before the launch when everything is rolled out on a pad and ready. And here we are before Don coming out, Don and myself, Ray and Jeff, Charlie and Dave and Jake. We were all very anxious. Of course, we had a number of delays, but the moment of truth was quickly arriving. We thought we weren't going to fly because of the weather, but they said, let's go. And here you can see the start sequence of the main engine, the hydrogen igniters spewing flame across behind the engines, and then them starting one at a time. Finally, they're up to speed, they're stabilized, and the solid rocket motors ignite. When the solid rocket motors ignite, you know you're on your way. You know where you're going, where they want you to go, and hope they're pointed in the right direction. It rumbles quite a bit while you're coming off of the pad. There's quite a bit of reflection off of the ground and off the pad. Once you get up above the tower, the roll starts and things calm down a little bit, but there's still quite a bit of rattle and noise as you're going up through the atmosphere. You have to remember, when you go through 19,000 feet, you're already doing Mach 1. We went to the clouds about 10 or 12,000 feet. We didn't see any moisture, which was what caused the delay, but it was a solid cloud up to about 33 or 34,000 feet. Once we got off of the solid rocket motors, things smoothed down as we were on the main engines, and it was a smooth ride up from there on into orbit. Of course, once we got into orbit, we had the direct insertion, so we didn't do an OMS 1 for quite some time. We were able to see the tank and see it spinning off a mile or so from us. Let me turn it off to Jeff here.
The mission started normally enough with PAM deployment. We've deployed a lot of PAMs in the shuttle program, but it was sure exciting deploying our own. It is a beautiful sight watching it come across right on the Earth's horizon. It's, of course, spinning for gyroscopic stability, and it's just a beautiful sight as it slowly drifts away from us out over the horizon. And you can see the solid rocket motor underneath it, which ignited 45 minutes after deployment and raised the apogee to 22,000 miles, and that satellite's now successfully in geosynchronous orbit. Our second satellite, again, started out normally enough. It's the SYNCOM, the third one that NASA has launched. It's a lovely sight seeing it come out sideways like this sort of frisbee deployment. You see that white antenna on the top. That's the omnidirectional antenna, which we expected to see come to a standing position about 1 minute and 20 seconds after the deployment. That's certainly the way it always happened in the simulator, but SimSoup had another idea this time, and after about 2 minutes, it finally sunk into us that it wasn't going to move, and of course we gave the call down to the ground. We then followed it. The other thing that should happen is that the satellite should spin up from its 2 RPM motion. After we deploy, then we burn our OMS engines, and from the 0G, the 1/10 of a G acceleration really gets your attention. Here's the OMS cutoff, and you can see all of the flaming coming around. I'm going to turn it over to Jake Garn now.
Now we're simply drifting away from the satellite. This is Ray doing her echo sounding, taking her blood pressure at this point while being restrained very well. As a matter of fact, we had the electrophoresis equipment
operated as a clean machine this time, both electromechanically and biologically. I even performed some standard operations in calibrating flow rates through the machine at the sample pump, which you see me doing here.
Mr. Yo-Yo, I've had a lot of discussions with physicist friends of mine about whether the yo-yo was going to work, and it worked fabulous. You could do it fast, you could do it slow, you could do it to the ceiling. That's the famous oi-oi. Dave did flying saucers around the moon. He's a real champ, and if they don't let him into the Yo-Yo Association of America, there's just no justice in the world. Putting the jacks here, there was constant danger of massive explosions if the ball came back in the wrong place. We managed to go through without ever losing the jacks, and although it's not on film, Ray did manage to do her 12s by the end of the flight. If you let a paper airplane just float, it's pretty much carried away by the air currents in the shuttle, as you see here. And so it really doesn't take very much force just to start it on the most beautiful flight that you've ever seen of any paper glider.
Hope you like our home movies so far. The paddle ball behaved a lot like it does on Earth in that you can paddle it.
Giving Jeff a hand. We had reduced the cabin pressure down to 10.2 at this point. We did that on day 4 to denitrogenate Jeff's and my blood. Here we are with our lacrosse stick and the fly swatter. We kept close grasps on those because we certainly needed them to do the activity we intended to do later on. Didn't want to leave them outside the airlock when we depressed. There's Bo assisting me getting suited up. The total EVA ran about 3 hours and 6 minutes and a few seconds. Most of the work activity of putting the two devices onto the end effector was accomplished within the first hour, slightly over an hour. We then, at the completion of that, had to move the arm over back to its manipulating position mechanisms, place the arm back down into those mechanisms, and roll the arm inboard as if we were going to stow and make a re-entry. The purpose for that being that we weren't really sure whether the fly swatter or the lacrosse stick might impinge upon the doors and prevent them being closed. We did
established into a tracking position. Bo moved back to the aft station, where he's standing on the starboard side now and flying the spacecraft from there, and that's where all rendezvous and proximity ops are flown in the spacecraft, generally standing in the back, hovering in the back, if you will, looking out through the overhead window using the hand controllers, the rotational and translational hand controllers that are in the back of the spacecraft. As it comes around here, we'll be able to show you this arming lever before we took a swat at it. Bo is looking. Here it comes now in that orange rectangle in the lower right-hand corner of it. You see what the lever looked like when we first saw it. And then Ray got ready to take a swipe at it.
I guess there was some question about whether the arm could be used in this manner with some rather primitive tools on the end of it to hit that lever and see if we could activate the separation switches by it. If you'll watch the lacrosse stick on this first pass, you'll see it come in, and I'll get your opinion on whether you think we got it or not. Here it comes in, grabbed it, pulled it. Real good pull. First time, went in with a fly swatter. The second time, tried to hook it on one of the rungs of the ladder. Here we come again, grabbed it. That's number 2. This time we try and hit it with the base of the cone, which is a more solid object. Get it one more time. That's 3. We got, as we can count, at least 3 really good whacks at it. At this point in time, the window closed that we were supposed to be hitting this thing, and since we had made hard contact with it, we had to back off from it at this point in case it was going to activate itself sometime later.
Bo flew the initial SEP burn from the back, which was in a Z orbiter direction. And meanwhile, while he was doing that, I was targeting up a small out-of-plane burn to get us out of the plane of the spacecraft so we wouldn't come close to it on subsequent revolutions. And then 15 minutes later, we targeted an Ohms burn to do the final separation. The reentry was a very exciting part of the flight. highlight for me at least, because in a lot of it we were in this particular attitude, and I got to look out the window and see the ground going by. It goes by a lot faster when you're down below than it does up at orbital velocity. We rolled out coming over the central part of Florida here and into the Kennedy Space Center into a slight left bank prior to intercepting the heading alignment circle. We had gone just a little north of ground track, had corrected, and then come back to our nominal ground track. You can see the speed brake opening here to control the energy and rate of descent of the spacecraft. And of course, we're a glider here at slightly under 200,000 pounds, as on all previous flights. It was a beautiful day in Florida. The sun was shining. There were a few scattered clouds down over Melbourne. Kennedy Space Center itself was clear. I had a great view as we came around the heading alignment turn on the final for runway 33 at the Cape. I was talking to Bo all the way around the turn relative to lineup and glide slope and energy management, and he was doing a great job of flying the airplane right around there. As we roll out on final here, I'll let him describe the landing.
As you know, we were waved off once. We didn't think we were coming in because seldom does the weather get better in Florida when it's cloudy in the morning, but it did. It was beautiful. Here we were coming right down near the runway and started our pull-out for the final landing. Here we're coming over the Banana Creek, and in just a second you'll see the gear come down, and finally the overrun of the runway come up. It was a right crosswind. We touched down just a little bit to the left of the center line and drift a little bit farther to the left with the crosswind. I put in a correction and brought it back to the center line. It handled beautifully. We rolled out with just moderate braking and stopped with about 3,000 feet to go. We probably could have stopped a lot shorter if I had used a lot harder braking. At that point, we were all elated. We felt that we were really home. I mean, we had gone through this mission. We had done all of these things. Here we were rolling out. It was certainly under control. We were ready to stop and see our families and come home. What else could possibly go wrong? We, a few seconds later, felt one of the wheel brakes lock up, and it was no problem to control the vehicle. I mean, it was absolutely under control. There was no question about it, and you can see that. It didn't diverge at all. And then just about the time we came to a stop, the right tire blew.
Did you see that where the wheel actually blew? Let's go.
I have thoughts. Well,
Yep.
not thoughts, but so up to this point in the shuttle program, there is no nose wheel steering. So
Correct.
if you are not on the center line and you're being pushed by the wind, as they were in this case, off the center line, you have to use differential braking. So you put more brakes on one side than the other. And he said, what did he say? Moderate braking. I think it was they had to be double the amount of force on the right side than on the left side. And he lost the tire. So after this, it took him a while because of 51L, but they did implement nose wheel steering so they could not worry about it. But Slayer, they weren't able to land at KSC for a bunch of years between getting the nose wheel steering worked out and Challenger, right?
Yeah, from my understanding, actually, though, 51, prior to 51L, they did manage to add in some differential braking, or not differential braking, some nose wheel steering, but yeah, that was one where they decided, let's hold off on landing at the shuttle landing facility, and it took another 5 years for them to land there, so they figured at this point it's safer to land at Edwards, where you've got wider runways, where you've got basically runways painted on the sand that you could land in as well and not worry about going off center line too much.
I don't know if it was me, chat, but during that video, I had what was like a very faint quiz show in the background of my ear for some reason. I don't know what the heck was going on there. I don't know if it's on the video.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, it might be on the video because whoever records a lot of these videos are very, 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 very old. And I guarantee you some people who had like done some very VHS tapes where they are taped over something and you still got that like resonance of it in the background. But that was weird. It sounded like The Price is Right was on in like 5% volume over the crew talking. And he was like, what the heck is going on there? I was quickly checking around because my microphone was muted, so I was like, well, it's not me, and I'm not watching 80s quiz shows, so what's going on? Anyway, we've got some photographs from the mission. I want to go through the photographs we've got. We've got loads of photographs from L2, so I always like to show them. So we'll whiz through these. There's an IMAX camera, I believe, finally, because I know we had lots of
Oh, yeah.
IMAX at the time during these missions.
I don't
Oh,
know
hang
if
on,
that's an
hang on,
IMAX
hang
Although,
on.
no,
camera.
that reel isn't big enough for
That
70
that looks
millimeters.
like just a film camera. I mean, it's a sick camera. Looks like an Airy, maybe. I can't tell. But yeah,
Cool.
film camera. I don't know. I don't think that's IMAX. It could be, but probably just a film camera.
I like this one.
Wow.
That's through the aft windows of the flight deck. So that is
What
really
a
cool.
shot.
They're doing the EVA.
I
Because
also
it
like,
was.
yeah, I love with this one too. All of a sudden, it's just like, yeah, it didn't deploy properly, so let's just go out and do a spacewalk and do it. Like, it's no big deal.
Experiments. There's the satellite. That's the one to get the whack. Because that was great with the lacrosse stick on end of the RMS, which is a remote manipulator system. I can never say that first time round, which is a shuttle arm. And that's where they gave it a whack. Literally gave it a whack. It just shows the versatility of the shuttle where they could go back and give it a whack with the end of the arm, which was really good. Yeah, there's lots of videos. There he is. Lacrosse. There we go. There's the word. Sticks. We've gone past the hour. My brain doesn't work after an hour.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Just the most hilarious solution ever.
That's
You
mad.
just swat at it.
Astro Knucklehead in chat said it's the Canadarm, so they should have used hockey sticks.
Ah, there we go. Yes. Well done. Yeah.
Oh.
There's the EVA. Always the EVAs give you a good scale of how big the payload bay is and spatial. It's massive. And there's the things they're whacking it with. They're whacking those points there, try and get that array to deploy. Right, cool. We had some landing pictures, I'm sure, as well. And we'll go on to the final mission. Landing. Here we go. Got quite a few of these. See, I know I definitely got one of the tire which blew. So here's landing, which is just on that video. That's a cool photograph approaching the shuttle landing facility where they do go past the VAB because the shuttle landing facility is more to the north. And that's where they passed that. What a shot that would be, just looking out the window, knowing you're coming home from space and seeing that where you launched from. That is cool. Coming into land, that's before the gear were down and locked. They've opened the payload, the wheel doors there, and that's where they're on the actual shuttle land facility. Like
Only 300 feet above the deck at that point, basically.
Yeah. There's the old mission control center, the flight control room with the old graphics and the old computers and the old views. That was during the mission, I believe, because you can see the satellite there in the actual TV pictures. That's a great shot of the shuttle landing facility and how high they are with just that to go. And there's a steep descent in view there because they come down and land from that point. That is a heck of a view. And there's a blown tire. Oopsie daisy. They won't be using that again.
Yeah, it was more of like a bad year than a good year.
Some TPS damage here, Sawyer.
Woof.
I mean, they had a lot of TPS damage during these missions. It wasn't until we had a lot of examples of this. This would not have been deemed as too bad at the time. In the later return to flight missions, this would have been panic stations. They're like, oh, we've had some serious problems there with TPS damage.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to the next mission. Have you any questions while we're in the middle of transitioning to the final mission, Jack?
Yeah, we do. Budathea is asking, kind of stupid question, but since the actual shuttle goes more into an upside down stance during launch, do the astronauts feel the blood rush to their heads? No, right, Sawyer?
Not during the roll position. Once they get into space, they absolutely feel the blood rushing to their head just because of the way the circulatory system works. So you'll notice pretty much every single astronaut that's in space has a puffy head. And
yeah, that's like one of those things about space flight that it's like, oh, it'd be so cool to go into space, and it's like, well, actually, it's tricky in a variety of ways, including your entire circulatory system readjusts, not because you're upside down or anything, just because that's 0G versus not. So yeah,
normally gravity moves all the blood down as opposed to letting it just go wherever, so you get the puffy head.
That also partially, I think, is what affects the degradation of the sense of taste while you're in space as well. But yeah, so it does happen, but not because of the roll and not because they appear upside down from an observer on the ground. They're feeling acceleration in a different axis at that point. So we got another one. Let's see. Westy is asking, would you know what has been said on how SRB SEP feels from inside the shuttle at launch? Well, in that video we watched, we could kind of hear him talk about it. After SRB SEP, everything kind of smooths out a bunch, right?
Yeah, from the people that I've spoken to, my astronaut list, you get the kind of thud from when they actually do separate, and as mentioned in that, they're gone once the ride gets just that much smoother, but there is a little initial thunk as they go away.
Right. And then as we were looking at that tile in that last shot, sorry, Chris, Jay is asking, are the ceramic heat shield tiles on Shuttle composed of the same basic stuff as on the current versions of Starship?
I think it's
I don't think they're
similarly
exactly the same, but they're similar ceramic
inspired.
materials, right?
Yeah, again, a lot of it is silica based. So I think there's some similarities, and yes, there's the ceramic coating on top, but obviously SpaceX has improved theirs a little bit since Shuttle.
And last, Matt Z is asking, was the shuttle landing relatively quiet compared to an airplane? I mean, yeah, there's no engines. Minus the sonic boom, though, of course.
I'm so mad I never got to see a landing, only the launches. But yes, when you don't have any engines, it was a lot quieter. And then obviously they got their APUs and stuff that run afterwards. But the landing itself, not loud.
I'd say I went out to see landings, but I never actually went to KSC for one. But I would go outside to try and hear the sonic booms. And whenever you could, what a treat.
I'll say a quick thing about the launch and landing and how the astronauts always talked about it. They said the first 2 minutes was very, very, very rough and shaky and vibrations. SRB separation also included the FRCS, which is the Ford RCS, firing to help the separation. And that was like a fireball in their windscreen. So they saw it through the windows and they knew about it during separation. It was quite loud. Then it was very smooth all the way to orbit, but the G's increase. So that was quite hard on the body. On the return, they called it the Rocky Road. Once they started getting through the atmosphere, it was called the Rocky Road because it's quite bumpy, but then smoothed out a lot during the final part ahead of landing. So that's kind of like very dynamic situations during launch and landing on the space shuttle, which is kind of the opposite of capsule returns, because capsule returns, the landings are very, very hard. You're coming through, the parachutes deploy, you're in a washing machine scenario, and then you got the lateral landing itself, especially Soyuz. They call it the soft landing jets, but there's nothing soft landing about Soyuz.
Yeah, that's meant to cushion it, but it was described to me by Terry Virts as the equivalent of getting into a car crash at 40 miles an hour.
Nice. Next mission, 51-D, B, sorry. This is where we have a change of orbiter. We go now on to Challenger, and this is a Space Lab mission with a full crew and lots of experiments involved, because that's what those missions are about. It was before the ISS, so they had to have almost like a module in the back, a module of the ISS, but in the back of the payload bay. I love this patch.
Oh, me too.
Oh my word.
Shall we go into it?
Yes, please.
All right. So again, as mentioned, this is the Space Lab 3 mission. The crews were separated into two different teams that would operate in 24 hours. You had the gold team and the silver team, hence why some of the names are in gold and some of the names are in silver. There are the 7 stars in the back representing the 7 crew members. And yes, while you have the American flag underneath, don't forget that this particular module is actually designed by the European Space Agency, which is referenced with the use of having Pegasus there.
I've never stopped Americans before. Hey, that's crew. Or some of the crew, at least. Nice little model there. Thank you very much. And we have nice VAB shot. We've got lots and lots, but I thought I'd bring this one up because it was just a real nice shot of processing where they've mated the external tank and the SRBs and then added the orbiter. And this is where they add the orbiter because the sling is still there. That's when they take it over from the transfer aisle, lift it over a gap in the high bay between the 4 high bays, and then lower it down onto the external tank for mating, which is always a very cool thing. We've got lots more on that as we get through future missions because I've got videos and stuff like that which I can show you. Look at the old logo on the VAB here.
I love that logo.
Oh,
Can we go back for a second
Centennial.
though? I'm sorry. I have a photo thing. We were talking
Yeah.
about film a few minutes ago. I love that this is black and white. It's so beautiful and iconic. It's also probably might have actually been necessary. Like if this was a processing shot for engineering purposes back in the day, black and white film, you could get more sensitive film with less grain than color at the same sensitivity or what have you. So it might have been actually necessary to shoot this in black and white, not the photographer going like, oh, I'm just going to make it black and white for artistic purposes, like one might do today. It might have actually been necessary.
We need photo fax command in chart nightbot command, so Jack can have his photo fax part. There you go. There's a better shot showing the VAB with it. Was this for a special event? I
That
remember
was
there was
the United States bicentennial.
that was it. That was it. Yeah. Did look nice though. And you've got all the reflection shot there. That's lovely. Yes,
Even though,
lovely
again, by
photographs.
this point, we're way past the bicentennial. That was 1976. And these were 85.
Couple of launch shots here. Again, you can't go wrong. The crane's still there. We're going to be crane watch now. Every Shuttle Sunday, crane's still there. Then when the crane eventually goes, we'll be like, it's gone. It's finally gone.
I mean, I am curious as to when it goes away, because I'm almost positive it goes away at some point during the shuttle era, because I do not remember seeing it ever. But I don't know. Could be wrong.
That'll be the thumbnail for that Shuttle Sunday. I'll know in advance when the crane's gone, and I'll do a thumbnail. It'll just be like, crane gone. Shuttle Sunday, crane gone. And they go, what missions are you covering? Because no one cares. They only want to know about the crane, if it's still on the tower or not.
You can put my face on the thumbnail. I'll do like the oh no face, and
Yes,
Sawyer can
yes,
make it say crane
oh,
gone, and we'll do like a circle and the arrow.
We'll be
Oh,
like
I've already got a template for an oh no face for you, Jack.
We'll be
You
like
know
all
it.
the other YouTube channels where it's just a shocked expression face pointing at something going, this is our video. Look at my astonished face. It's amazing. Please click on me. Please click on me. Look at my face. I'm astonished. Click on me. That's what thumbnails are on YouTube these days. It's true. I sound like I'm joking. I am not joking. It's true. Right, anyway, moving on.
Shuttle.
Yeah. Mission photograph. Oh, it's a long video again, so I'm just going through the mission ones first. Do the video. I'll cut through the video because there's quite a lot. It's a long video. And then go to landing photographs, and then we'll be done. Here's inside the laboratory. That's a nice camp. There you go, Jack. What's this?
That I don't actually know what that is. That looked like I don't see a film reel on it. I don't know if it would be a digital something. I really don't know.
Unless that's potentially one of their astronomy observing experiments.
Yeah, I would lean towards some sort of scientific equipment over a camera. That doesn't look like any camera I know, but there are cameras I don't know.
Chat's got on thumbnail still. Sarah says, Chris, can we expect you on thumbnails to describe now? No, you'll never see him on a thumbnail ever, full stop, regardless of expressions of face I'll be pulling. Thank you. Moving on.
I did make a shocked Jack thumbnail that will
Stop
never
it.
see the light of day. But
Stop it.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not going anywhere past where it is.
So this is the actual volume inside these laboratories on the back of the payload. This is installed into the payload bay area of the spatial orbiter. So this is really, and if you think about it, look at the Columbus module and things like that on the ISS. It's very much like that, but one module on the back, in the trunk almost, if you want to call it that, of the spatial. I personally thought whoever thought this up as one of the feathers in the cap of the space shuttle program did a good job, because it really did give an extra capability to what was pre-ISS. Again, they had no versions of this. This must be massive data points for them back in that day. Look at that. That was a tube between the transfer between the flight deck and mid deck was on the mid deck, wasn't it? Where they had a tube attached and they go through to the actual laboratory there.
Yep.
Yep.
Hey, look, it's the internet.
No. Name the place, anybody in chat, and when this video gets uploaded as a standalone video later on tonight, you have the opportunity to put in the comment sections where you can spot what this may be taken over.
We're gonna get the GeoGuessers on our channel. I have no idea.
No, I don't either. And it wasn't tagged in the photographs either. Aurora's Borealis.
Wow.
Nice.
Here we go. Nice little. Oh, I go back. We have these in PDFs in L2. Loads of them. Nearly every single handbook, not for permission, but all of them for the shuttle. And they are massive. They are ridiculous. And I'm thinking, if I was a shuttle astronaut and I was like, right, you've got to learn all your checklists and all your handbooks, it's thousands of pages. It is literally thousands of pages you've got to read and learn. It's not easy.
But they have little tab dividers.
I'm talking about handbooks, right? So the handbooks. Where was I going with that? Sorry, you've thrown me. I don't know.
That they were available in L2?
No, I was talking about something else, but where's this off? Again, oh, by the way, ESA. They thought, well, they get American flag on the patch. We'll put our logo on the module. Well done. It was British flag. What's going on there? Now this was actually tagged in L2 what it was. I've completely forgotten. Never mind. But it's an interesting mineral we're looking at.
Oh, so they grew a crystal in space, probably.
Something like that, yeah.
Really neat, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely from the Crystals in Space experiment, which was on board.
The fun thing about the British flag there is you couldn't have it on 3 British astronauts who flew because they had to become naturalised Americans to fly on the Space Shuttle because the UK government had banned astronauts. Yes, it's a true story. We'll go into that in more depth when we get one of those people, the likes of Michael Fill, probably the first.
Oh, by the way, it's mercury iodide.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice.
Lovely. Right, should we go and play a video? I get my brain back at the same time.
Yeah, don't eat mercury iodine. Watch the video.
There you go, boys and girls. Don't eat it. Right, video time.
Carol Lind, Don Lind's daughter, did an excellent job. We were very pleased with it. While Challenger waited out on the pad for us, we were having breakfast. This is the morning breakfast. You notice we carried the motif of the gold and silver team across. The biggest trick about this was eating breakfast with those shirts on and then packing them up and getting them on board the shuttle so we could have them on board for our crew picture. Exiting the quarters, we all marched off to the van, gave our usual happy wave, and we're ready to go out to the bird.
Since I was a rookie on board, I was asked to describe the sensation of this liftoff. We had an awful lot of training, a couple of years worth, but nothing fully prepared me for the actual sensation of those main engines starting and then eventually those solids sliding. And I'll tell you, this son of a gun really rattles when it takes off. I kept looking out the window and Bob would say, go back to your instruments. So the pilot's job is not to observe, but to monitor and make sure that everything works properly. After we took off, of course, we had a big roll and something very unique in this picture. In this series of shots, we're going right up the eastern coast of the United States. We'll flash back and forth between this outside of the window shot and the orbiter actually from the ground, but I think it was spectacular. We can see the horizon come up. We're, again, walking right up the eastern coast. I commented to Bob that we have just gone through some clouds. Those clouds we just went through were at 42,000 feet, so you can tell we were really traveling upward. We had a normal throttle back at about 0.8 Mach to maintain our dynamic pressure below our set limit of about 460 feet per second squared, and then we throttled back up to 104%. Now, we continue up the eastern shore. That camera, by the way, was mounted at my right shoulder, looking out the window to my right. That was the Chesapeake Bay. You can see the Chesapeake Bay, Potomac River there, into the Washington area. Delaware Bay, the Sea Isle coming up on Atlantic City to the right of the screen. The next thing you'll see is Long Island. Certainly doesn't take long to get up there at all. There's Long Island coming up on the right side, and you can see Manhattan there. We'll go right on out the tip of Long Island. See the northern and southern shores out there, the Hamptons. And the next thing you see is Cape Cod. And all of this is real time. This is how fast we were going. Actually, pretty slow compared to our actual flight when we got up to 190 miles. There's Cape Cod there in Boston.
What we are flying. This is a little bit out of sequence. We didn't get that much fun until about 6th day. What we're doing here is trying to prove in the conservation of angular momentum. That's one of the things I promised my kid to do in the space.
Well, you know, in this case, this is about my 2nd day, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to like flying or not, so I was looking at another profession of juggling. If you watch closely, I didn't do very well with that, but I sure...
So that when these mercuric iodide crystals are used as detectors for X-rays or gamma rays, that the resolution of the X-ray spectrometer is more accurate because the crystals were grown under these ideal conditions.
And woke up everybody, even started the people in the flight deck. And this is sort of sequence what you will see when the drops dynamic system is working properly. You can see what we're looking at, the rotation of those droplets in a controlled manner. We can see essentially equilibrium shape, eventually lead to so-called saddle point and fission, which it didn't follow through.
But to about 3 times the thickness. My task here was to remove the crystal from the end of the sting, which had already been pulled from the solution, so that we could bring the crystal back safely for transport. It's a fairly delicate crystal, and I had been admonished to do this very carefully, so I was doing it slowly so as not to damage the crystal. Once we got the crystal away from the sting, we wanted to photograph it. And with the white sterile gloves on, we couldn't do it very well. So we simply carefully launched it into space so that Bill could follow with the camera, and we could see all the various facets. You see it has grown under a couple of different growth conditions in various layers above the initial seed crystal.
He's trying to keep me straight. We have a little joggle here where we actually raise up and come into the tunnel, and that gives you an excellent view of the Space Lab back there. I'm at the other end now, and I'm going to move up, and in just a minute you'll see how things get passed.
All right.
There it goes. You can see the pen.
Look at that.
And that came from Don Lynn all the way to Ludwig at the other end. That's about 20 feet or so.
Yeah.
Ludwig's working at the workbench there.
Right. And you can see how all the wires are now fitted to connectors on my arm, and there is not much hanging loose from, you know, that white underwear that I wear.
The transition.
Well, this was deactivation. At long last, although we were having such a good time, we had to come home, so we battened down the lab, prepared it for entry, and this is closing out the airlock hatch that goes back into the space lab just prior to getting ready to start the deorbit procedures. Everybody strapped into their seats. This is the last experience that Taylor was going to have to get with zero gravity there, is playing with the amplifier box. This was one of our displays, the backup flight system on CRT-3. Just you can look on that and you see we're counting down to entry interface, and it was a very relaxed entry. We were absolutely nominal. You notice I kept sitting there with my hand on top of my helmet with essentially nothing better to do but just watch it at least down to Mach 0.9. Yes, except the rest of us didn't know you were doing that, or we would have been more worried. There's
what the glow looked like out my window on the left.
this is up probably Mach 22, 23 yet. We had done our deorbit burn in nighttime, and so we saw our last spectacular sunrise as we came on our track in towards Edwards Air Force Base. We were still very high, the glow was around us, and all of a sudden the sun started breaking through, and of course it washes all that glow away totally because the sunrise is quite spectacular.
Bob got the glow, I got the sunrise.
These are the mission specialists, Norm right to the foreground and Don in the background, and then Fred there at his pilot seat. And we're just, we've now moved into daylight. You can see this, but we're banked over quite a bit at the bank, looking at the Earth. It's amazing how at 200,000 feet, after being up at 190 miles, at 200,000 feet flying over the clouds of the Pacific, we thought we were right skimming the tops of them. They just seemed like they were right below us. It's amazing how coming down to that altitude, and here we were a good 140,000 feet above them. We intercepted the heading alignment circle at 0.9. We had really nothing to comment on. The entry was absolutely nominal. We'd picked out the lake bed way out over the Pacific. Fred had called that he could see he had a visual on Edwards when we were a couple hundred miles off of Los Angeles. We passed over Los Angeles and then on into the heading alignment circle. We picked up all of the visual aids. The guidance was right on. Houston had assured me several times that guidance was showing us right on track. Fred made the normal calls that we have trained so much in the standardization of all the flight crews, the pilots making the calls and the commander flying here. And as we come on down, at 400 feet, we lowered the gear. I'm sure Fred lowered the gear without even me calling it. And we came on down to touchdown.
I want to just say that this was one of the most superb touchdowns I've ever had in my life. We didn't even know we were on the ground.
Well, we rolled for a while there, got the speed brakes to come out and start the derotation down, and got on the brakes at that time after derotation in accordance with our test plan, and brought it to a stop. I've got a couple of pictures that I'm very proud of that for test pilots, it doesn't make a lot of difference where you land, but it's where you stop it, and we stopped it right on center line, and we made darn sure we got it stopped right on center line. We felt very comfortable. I don't think any of us had much deconditioning experience to go through. We were obviously feeling heavier, but we walked very steadily and had no difficulties with it at all.
Yeah, I think that covers it. The rest of it is just basically walking around the orbiter, which is fine because we know that's what they always did. But I've got some landing photographs I can show as well. Here we go. Very proud about where they stopped, but this is where they touched down. And of course,
Beautiful.
This is a California return, Jack.
Yep.
Yeah, as we were talking about in the last one, they popped that tire, and so in the meantime, they decided to land at Edwards because they have Rogers Dry Lake, which is they have a very long actual concrete runway, and then they also have a dry lake bed at the end of the runway, so they have plenty of space out there to not need to worry about if they're drifting a little bit before they implemented that nose wheel steering. But I say it every time. If I had a time machine, I would 100%, one of my first stops would be to go back to Edwards to witness a shuttle landing because, just so beautiful.
Well, we're not far off a time machine being invented, apparently, on People X. So that's you never know. You never know. We might get the opportunity. Do we have any final questions before I bring this 1 hour and 30-minute show to a close?
Yeah, Jay. Really quickly, Jay was saying that the photo, the GeoGuessr photo we were looking at was Rochester, New York, Lake Ontario, and the Finger Lakes. I don't know if that's true, but that's what Jay said. So we'll have to look at the comments after we post this video and see if people agree.
Yeah, well, we've got, again, if you're watching this live, you can talk in chat. If you're watching this on the recorded version, you've got the comment section under the video as well. Do post in there because it's an interactive show, regardless of if it's live or if it's recorded. We do read the comments, so by all means, join in with the geolocations.
Yeah, also, a couple quick interesting things with this mission that are maybe not on the happier side, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
There had been discussion many times of a payload specialist or someone that came aboard a shuttle flight during one of these Space Lab missions and basically got upset that their experiment didn't work and said, basically, what if I just opened the hatch? So they had to talk them down from it, and from this point on, it became somewhat common, just in case, to actually put a physical lock on the door of the hatch to go in and out of the spacecraft during these types of missions because of this particular mission.
Ah, that's this one.
That's
Yeah,
this
that
one, yes.
something went wrong with an experiment they were working on, and they were very despondent and made some comments that might not have been the best to make while on
Appropriate,
orbit.
yeah.
Yeah.
That they wanted to open the airlock door, and that it turns out all you have to do is just twist and open, and because they needed to make it easy to open after Apollo
Wow.
1,
Right.
so it could have been quite disastrous. So future missions ended up locking the hatch.
It's not something that really gets talked about a lot, but mental health of astronauts is absolutely a thing.
I'm going to
Yeah.
completely ruin the mood by saying it reminds me of Armageddon, where he goes, he's got space dementia. Get off the nuclear warhead.
I mean, and then the other one, of course, comes back to Challenger as well. This one got even closer to disaster than 51-C we started with. So basically, after the Challenger disaster, they looked back at old flights. And if I can just read a tiny bit from the oral history of one of the crew members on this flight, Don Lind, basically, they told him to lock the door inside of the astronaut office, which is already top secret, so that means something's really bad. And so he was told, hey, I was talking to NASA management, and they saw a burn through on ours, and they said that we were 15 seconds away from losing the orbiter and us and having a bad day. So after that, they went over to where was it? So yeah, they went and talked to people like Roger Beaujolais and some of the other people who did the actual numbers down on it. And yeah, it turns out that yeah, hang on, I just lost it.
Did they listen to them, Sawyer?
No,
Yeah.
there it was. Alan McDonald, the head of the booster division, and Roger Beaujolais
Yeah.
sat down and said, quote, there are 3 separate O-rings to seal the big long tubes with the gases flowing down through them at about 5,000 degrees and 120 psi. The first 2 seals on our flight, Lind said, had been totally destroyed, and the third seal had 24% of its diameter burned away. 61 mils of that last seal had been burned away. So McDonald said all of that destruction happened in 600 milliseconds, and what was left of the last O-ring, if it had not been sealed, if it had not sealed the crack and stopped the outflow of gases, if it had not done that in the next 200 to 300 milliseconds, it would have been gone all the way, you'd never have stopped it, and you would have exploded. So you didn't come within 15 seconds of dying, you came within 0.3 of 1 second of dying. That was Lind's
Amazing.
quote.
But at least they learned a lesson from that, didn't they, Sawyer?
Oh, yeah, thank goodness that never happened again. Oh, wait.
Unbelievable. That's where I get angry about Challenger, because it's not like it was a one-off. Wow, we didn't expect that.
Yeah. And again, it brings it full circle back to the whole why it was so significant that Challenger and Columbia were brought up in the Starliner briefing.
Yes, absolutely. To
Bring it
full
all the way
circle.
back to the start of the
Bring
show.
it full circle, yeah. And that's why, I quoted it. I started the show with this. That's why I quoted it, because it was so important. I didn't expect it. You expect a NASA press conference with that much media attention because of Boeing and Starliner. It was not like some random NASA presser where only the beat reporters were there. This was where the mainstream media was at it, because obviously the story, and he brought it up still. And I was like, well done. I said, it was the right thing. But also, God, that reminds me, because like you just talked there, they know about these things and they didn't act on it. And anyway, I'll go down a rabbit hole if I'm not careful. Let's keep the mood happy on Shuttle Sunday, because Shuttle Sunday continues. We've got another 3 mission Shuttle Sunday to come. I will say an hour show, but guess based on this 1 hour and 40 minute show. We might be going a little bit over again. But after that 3-part show, we get on to Atlantis' maiden flight. And I'm going to say right now, that will be a dedicated one mission Atlantis baby pictures through to her first mission show.
I can
Damn right
already
we're
hear
going to
the
do that.
crispy happy noises.
It's the best shuttle, that's why. So I can't wait. In fact, I'm going to ask Braid to do a thumbnail, just put best shuttle on it. And just watch the rage from the Discovery and Columbia and Endeavour fans. But I don't care.
I will veto. I will
Yes.
revolt.
I know, but I can use what little authority I've got left to say, Brady, I'm putting my foot down. I'm putting my foot down. I'm asking for a thumbnail that says Shuttle Sunday. Don't put the mission, just put best shuttle. There we go. Thank you very much. Anyway,
fine. I'll modify it to add a sad horse face then.
Oh no, hang on. There's no compromising here. Come on. Anyway, moving quickly on. I think we should call that a show, don't we? Have we got any final thoughts before we end?
Let me just really quickly thank Booster 1058 for the €2. They say nominal wormball, gentlemen. Next NASA logo. Booster 1058 with another 2 saying orange kilt okayish comes with bacon. No. Apocalypse Cow gifting 5 red team memberships. Thanks so much, Danger Moo. And Christine Hockmeyer. I hope I'm not butchering her last name, becoming a Pad Rat member. Thank you all so much for the support. We're just doing Shuttle Sunday. We're not trying to do anything crazy here, but we appreciate the support and we appreciate everyone coming out, whether you're watching these live or whether you're watching the replay. Shuttle Sunday is really cool. I mean, I love watching all the historical footage. I know both of you guys do too. So thanks for the support.
And in the meantime, I'm going to learn how to open these windows of photos and things in the same size as the last time I opened it. Anyway, moving quickly on. Sorry, any final thoughts before we come this to a close? Because thank you, Jack, first and foremost, for coming on. And also thank you to Sawyer. Any final thoughts, Sawyer?
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't seen Challenger fly for a little bit, so it was good to see another flight with that. Good to see the second of these research missions as well in there. And I mean, we're really starting to get to that point in the program where Shuttle was finding its purpose. It was proving its worth. It was showing how dynamic it could be. And that's why I'm really excited to keep going with these missions here and just show how much more cool stuff they had planned for the STS program.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, we do this. These aren't the big, massive Starbase streams where we get tens of thousands of people in for a launch or anything like that. It's not even close to a lift of a crane at Starbase Live. The views won't be massive either. We don't do it for the views. If we just did things for views, we'd just be doing Starbase videos. Full stop. That's all we do. That's all we do. Just Starbase, because that's where everyone is. And I would say we think it's important that we cover the space shuttle program because it is our history. It's how we started. So it's literally how we started. And I think it's important that we go through all the missions and have this archive, this library, this playlist, as the YouTube fans call it, of all the missions. And people, maybe in years and years and years to come, will go back and watch, say, oh, I searched this mission I heard about. Maybe one of their relatives worked on it. And they can go back and search it and get a nice little show about that mission. So I think it's important we do these. And I think it's cool that we do. So thanks for joining us on this one. And until the next Shuttle Sunday, thank you and goodbye.